Subscribe to our YouTube channel for in-depth interviews of India Inc. and press the bell icon so that you do not miss our updates.
Hello and welcome to Nirmal Bang, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Hiro Dadia. We have with us Aditi Nair, Chief Economist at ICRA, joining in. Aditi, always a pleasure to have you on the show. Uh,
Thank you.
Aditi, my first question coming to you is, since the third quarter, we did see an economic recovery that did started to come in and clearly evitable in terms of the GDP numbers that we were clocking. However, now you do have the second wave that has hit us. Do you think this recovery is going to be sustainable, or do you think we could probably see the worst from here?
So, we had a very interesting second half of 2020. We had a sharp recovery that we saw between June and December. And in fact, India exited the recession in the third quarter, the October to December quarter, with a low growth in both GDP and GVA. And after that, in fact, I would say that the economic momentum actually started stalling. When we looked at the performance of the high frequency indicators in January and February, we could already see that many of them were slipping back in terms of the growth that they were recording as compared to the December levels. Some were improving, but it was a very mixed trend, and we thought that the Indian economy had consolidation phase effectively in January, February. In March, completely unsurprisingly, we got this because of the low base of March 2020, because the restrictions had started and the lockdown was announced toward the end of March. Uh, Also, that is of course because of the base effect. But even if we look at the position in March 2021 as compared to March 2019, most of the indicators did show YOY growth, which was encouraging. But all of that is now history. It's behind us because we've got this sharp second surge in COVID infections and restrictions, which are now unfolding. And this is something that we now need to watch very carefully to see what the impact is. As of now, what we can see is that in March itself, the momentum had started slackening for the domestic airline passenger traffic. And that's obviously the first that will be hit in terms of the contact intensive sectors, which is something that we saw through last year as well. And when we look at the available data for the early part of April, we are seeing some signs that the economic momentum is starting to slacken in things like electricity, the GST, e-way bill generation, and also in vehicle registrations. So some impact of the second wave has started creeping into the indicators, and we'll have to obviously watch the rest of the April data in great detail to be able to understand and separate the sequential momentum from the fact that the YOY growth is going to be exponentially high because of the impact of the lockdown.
Right. So, Aditi, with this now, if you take a little data points right now into consideration, now I'm just comparing, the COVID cases that have come in the first fortnight of April 2021, where clearly, if you go to see, COVID cases have gone up by a little over 150% if you compare it to the previous fortnight. With that, the death rate has gone up as well. And this is the sharpest increase that we've seen in the last 1 year when we compare it to March, April 2020 as well. Taking all of these points into consideration, if the second wave has to hit us, how bad could it get for the economy according to you?
So, let me offer a few different thoughts on this. First of all, we have to see till what point does the surge continue on the upside before things start settling down, and then, the downside starts in terms of the number of cases. Secondly, we need to see how many states are required to put in place stricter restrictions than what is there right now, until when these restrictions will have to continue to be able to understand the impact both on the supply side and on the demand side. So on the supply side, clearly the fact that the restrictions will be there, and also now signs of migrant labor going back to the hinterland. This is something that is going to be a concern, both in terms of the production sites being open and in terms of the availability of labor. So this is something we have to monitor. On the demand side, I would say that there will be an immediate hit as far as the contact intensive services are concerned. So there will be some loss of demand, but also there will be some shifting of demand from H1 to H2, let's say.
Hmm.
So all of the demand may not be lost, But some of it, yes, especially in the contact intensive sectors will be. And we've already seen from the RBI's consumer sentiment survey that sentiment had taken a hit in March itself. And in April, obviously, the sentiment would get worse. The festive period will be a loss of sales. So there are clear downsides for Q1. Earlier, we thought that the Q1 growth would be around 27.5%, and we now expect it to be between 20 and 25%. But this is obviously subject to how many states need to impose restrictions and how long they need to continue.
Hmm. Hmm.
Now, couple of more things. Of course, now the vaccines eligibility has been extended, and we really welcome that. The availability of vaccines is going to be important. Also, the newer variants, and how long does the vaccine efficacy last in terms of the antibodies that are generated. All of this will have an impact on the extent of uncertainty about the growth outlook going forward. So we have to wait and watch on these things. I would, as of now, I do think that because of the low base and because of some expected normalization in activity in the last 3 quarters of this year, we should be able to clock a GDP growth between 10 and 10.5%. But there are clear downsides, and we'll have to wait and see whether the downsides pan out or whether they come to the fore, or this surge ends sooner than what we expect.
Right. So Aditi, this 10.5%, are we talking about FY22?
Yes,
Right.
GDP growth in FY22.
Right. And from here on, another aspect that we need to consider is with regards to what's happening with inflation. Now, the RBI has indicated that 5.5%, or a little lower than 5% is what they're looking at. But how important is it going to be for the RBI to keep a track on the inflation, taking the growth into consideration as well as COVID?
Very tough balancing act again over the next few months from the RBI and the MPC. See, the last policy was a status quo, which was completely expected because we could foresee that inflation was going to climb in March. And given the uncertainty that had reignited regarding the growth situation because of the COVID cases. Now going forward, a couple of different things. On the inflation side, the MPC expects that average inflation is going to be around 5% in FY22. So
Hmm.
that basically means that rate cuts are ruled out, with inflation going to be 1 percentage point higher than the 2 to 6% range, which has now been extended by Government of India. Secondly, only if we have a situation where there is a sharp downside on the growth front could we expect rate cuts to happen. But most likely, if that ends up being the case, we will actually end up with more of supply disruptions. And therefore, inflation may actually be higher than what is expected right now.
Hmm. Hmm.
So I would say, even if growth substantially slows down, the extent of space that monetary policy has to be accommodative may be limited by the fact that inflation would spike because of supply side disruptions. So virtually, we are expecting no real room for rate cuts going forward. At the same time, we don't expect there to be early rate hikes because at 5%, inflation will still be well below the 6% upper threshold. So we expect that there is going to be an extended pause for the repo rate through 2021. We also expect a pause for the reverse repo rate, at least for the first half of this fiscal year,
Hmm.
perhaps with some inching up in the October or the December policies to close the gap, the wedge between the repo and the reverse repo. Lastly, in terms of the stance, we think that the MPC is going to be very cautious, and they clearly have given no time frame in terms of extending the accommodative stance this time. So they're going to be very data dependent, very much dependent on what the unfolding COVID and vaccination outlook is looking like. So I would expect a pause for a continuation of the accommodative stance as well in the first half of this fiscal year. And earliest that we would expect it to change to neutral would be the October or the December policies.
Right. And other thing with this, for example, hypothetically, inflation remains really strong. Do you think RBI will have to really make a choice between debt or inflation management? And what do you think will be beneficial then?
So, it's these are very complicated times. We thought that, this year at least growth would be coming back on a strong wicket. Inflation would at least taper off from last year, although it would be higher than 4%. And that liquidity management would be the tough choice as far as the RBI is concerned. But really, what we're seeing now is that there's going to continue to be a very uneasy balance, very uneasy equilibrium as far as yields are concerned. The RBI and the has introduced the GSAP. They're trying to have some measures as far as substantial liquidity and yield curve management is concerned. But it is going to be a very uneasy balance between the fundamentals on the inflation side as well as what's happening with global interest rates on the one hand and liquidity on the other. So our expectation is that there will have to be continued liquidity support or to really be able to keep a cap on yields. Otherwise, we would expect, first of all, we expect yields are going to be very volatile. We're going to continue to see the kind of spikes and dips that we've seen in the last 10 days as well. But longer term, we do think that a lot of liquidity support will be required to prevent yields from rising in a one-way manner.
Right. And then, in terms of the yields as well, the RBI has reiterated that they're committed to provide ample liquidity right now. And they're clearly somewhere telling us that they're focusing on the yields in the government bond market. Now, with this, do you think that the central bank will be able to keep the 10-year around that 6% range? Because that's what is the indication that they have been giving.
6% seems a little too low to me now. Given where we are headed on the inflation side, we do expect that there's going to be a temporary dip in the CPI inflation in the month of April to around 4% or so because of the lockdown related base. But after that, we think that there's going to be an uptrend, and the average CPI inflation should be around 5% in FY22. Given that, and given where we expect the US Treasury yields to be, 6% may be a little too low on the 10-year. We perhaps could see temporary dips every time that there is a large OMO with a substantial amount of the 10-year being purchased. Also, I would expect the new 10-year benchmark to come out around the first week of June. So, we might see a little bit of interest at that time in the 10-year. But other than that, 6% seems to be a bit low right now. I would imagine that 605 to 620 is a more likely range. And of course, by the end of May, we're going to get a clearer idea of the Government of India's financials. We think that they have, either ended FY21 with a better than expected, lower than expected fiscal deficit and higher than expected cash balances, or perhaps they've actually prepaid some of the FCI loans to the NSSF. Either ways, the pressure on FY22 is going to be a little lower than what we thought based on the budget estimates. So that is a good place to be. We'll get a confirmation of that at the end of May when we get the provisional numbers for Government of India. And so perhaps there may not be as much stress in June as what we had earlier thought. But I would imagine that 605 to 620 seems to be a very fair range for the 10-year for the next few months.
Right. And then with this, very interestingly, I think this is the first time that the RBI has actually committed itself to buying a specific quantum of GSECs over a specified period of time. I think they've said that they are going to plan to buy 1 trillion worth of government securities in the first quarter of FY22. Do you think this is something which is really aggressive? And secondly, what are the kind of risks that come with this now?
Well, I don't think it's aggressive. I think, the quantum that they've specified is probably broadly in line with what the market was expecting. And what we need to see now is how many other OMOs there will be outside of the GSAP program to be able to get a better sense of what the total quantum of purchases may be like in FY22. Clearly, the impact we've seen on the rupee, there was a sharp spike as far as the rupee was concerned and a depreciation that we saw right after this program was announced. So it's going to be a bit of a balancing that will be required between the yields and the rupee. But perhaps some amount of depreciation in the rupee may not be so bad overall for the economy. So I think, that's what's happened with the rupee in the last couple of weeks is within a tolerable range, given the fact that the rupee had appreciated a lot last year because of the FPI and the FDI inflows which were coming in.
Right. And overall, if you talk about the tax collections, they have significantly improved in the past few months. And this is in spite of COVID hitting us. Now, what do you make of these tax numbers? And clearly, because if you see the fiscal deficit as well, I think the last number that we got was that we've hit 76% of the revised estimates for April to February. So making it 1+1, what do you derive out of the tax numbers and the fiscal deficit overall?
See, the tax numbers definitely showed a better than expected pickup in Q3 and Q4. So we were very pleasantly surprised. And after seeing the kind of numbers that were trickling in for Q4, we were convinced that actually the revised estimates had underestimated the direct and the indirect tax collections. And that's what we've seen now in terms of the press releases that Government of India has put out, that the numbers have been better than the revised estimates. Also, right at the end of March, the government did release extra central tax devolution to the state governments, which was a clear indication that the collections had been better than the revised estimates. So this has all been very positive and would have created additional fiscal space for Government of India. We think that the capex would have been in line with the revised estimates, and the revenue expenditure would have been on the lower side. But there was a lot of back-ended subsidy release that had to happen in Q4, especially on the food subsidy side. And what we understand is that perhaps some amount of the FCI loan, which was budgeted for FY22, has actually been prepaid in FY21 because the fiscal deficit was running lower than what was projected in the revised estimates. So overall, this is very positive. There was a huge slippage in FY21, no doubt, as compared to the budget estimates. But we've ended up with a situation where we've had a revival in the tax collections, and some space got created to be able to clean out some old liabilities. So we're starting off on a cleaner slate for FY22. So this is all positive, and we will take a relook once we get the provisional estimates for FY21 to be able to understand how much the positive impact will be there as far as the borrowing number for FY22.
Right. And very lastly, Aditi, from here on, taking the current scenario into consideration, what are the key monitorables that we have to keep watching out for?
Well, clearly, firstly, what is the spread in terms of the COVID cases, the restrictions, and more importantly, now the vaccinations? Because as the vaccinations start covering a larger and larger part of the population, I think that is going to be one very key monitorable in terms of bringing sentiment back on track. And we're also going to be looking at the sequential momentum as far as the lead indicators are concerned, to understand at what point does the economic activity sort of start picking up again after what we're expecting to be a trough in the second half of April. And that's going to help us to figure out, both what the growth for Q1 is going to look like, and also how we should model growth going forward in the rest of FY22. So as of now, we do think that growth will be around 10 to 10.5% in FY22, which is similar to what the RBI and the MPC have indicated in the latest policy.
Absolutely. And I think that should be our focus from here on as well. And thank you, Aditi, so much for joining us on the show. Always a pleasure to have you. Stay safe and speak to you soon again.
Thanks.
Thank you.